Here's a question for you. What was a future deputy city attorney doing attending so many of my poetry nights when I held them at Bistro 33 in the 2000 aughts? I'll tell you the answer to that question. Oh, I know it's burning in your heart. This is Dr. Andy of Diary of a Quizmaster. Thanks for joining me for another one of these odd videos. Odd and unrequested, and yet to me very fulfilling videos in which I remember 365 of my favorite and most memorable students that I've taught at UC Davis over the last 36 and a half years. Well, Tom was his name, and he was a student who was still finding his voice, finding his standing, as it were, in the world of poetry when I taught him in that oft-mentioned introduction to poetry. It was actually a close reading of poetry class in the fall of 2005. Tom was a student who performed well in the class, but did not always raise his hand, did not always come to office hours, but then later, I think, he came to regret it. How do I know this? Because I've just looked over our history of Facebook messages, and so many of them concern his attempts to connect with me in person. In 2006, he reintroduced himself and said, "I see you from afar, but I'm basically too shy to go up and talk to you, Dr. Andy." And then in 2007, he asked about my office hours. Believe it or not, before the pandemic shut everything down, I used to hold Sunday night office hours from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. every week at Crepeville. Crepeville's a popular restaurant here in town. They are now not open that late. I don't think it's because of my office hours, and that so many students would show up to meet with me, and many of them would not buy anything. Is that why they decided to close early? No, it's probably just good business. Well, Tom found out that I was holding these Sunday night office hours and wrote to me and said, "Dr. Andy, could I come meet with you?" I said, "Sure, Tom, come meet with me." Do I remember what we talked about? No. This is a theme of this video. Scheduled meetings, but because I was not a blogger back then, because I didn't take notes in anticipation of writing a video memoir about 365 of my favorite students, I didn't take notes. I didn't write blogs. I wasn't even keeping a handwritten journal in my bullet journal. So what did we talk about? I don't know. But I do know this. Soon thereafter, Tom entered law school. And as a law school student, he was required, expected to do some sort of volunteer work in his community. Well, reader, I was in his community, and I ran poetry night. So Tom asked, could I please come be a volunteer supporter, what we now call the producer, of poetry night? I said, sure. Our numbers were not as strong back then as they are now. So partially I was just looking forward to having another seat filled. But Tom eventually helped with publicity, attending to the needs of our poets, stacking chairs, etc., etc. And I really appreciated that support. And he did this, I think, for more than a year. Now, mind you, Tom has what we'd call an analytical mind. He sent me messages about the classes that he was taking in Latin and Greek. He was preparing to become a lawyer. Was it a perfect fit? Poetry is a perfect fit with anyone who is receptive to it. So, not long thereafter, I get a message from Tom. Tom was his name, and he said, Dr. Andy, I understand that you and your son go to Dos Coyotes for dinner. Perhaps I could join you all for dinner one night. Well, whereas now that is almost a daily occurrence, back then it was Tuesdays at 6 o'clock. Why? Because we had therapeutic horseback riding beforehand. Hello. Juki and I did in Dixon. And off we went to Dixon. Juki got to ride horses, and then we came back to Dos Coyotes and had dinner. And on one particular night, Tom joined us. We had another one of these mystery conversations. Well, I sent him a message in 2015, and it said, Tom, can you believe that it was 10 years ago that you were my poetry student, that I introduced you to poetry? He gave that a big thumbs up. I think that was on LinkedIn. November 11th, 2015 at 1:04 p.m. Clearly Tom lived in Midtown. Maybe I jumped on Facebook and saw that he was doing something. I don't know. Back in 2015, I spent time on Facebook, and now much less so, for obvious reasons. But here's what I said to him on November 11th, Veterans Day, Kurt Vonnegut's birthday, in 2015 at 1:04 in the afternoon. Hi, Tom. My two sons and I are enjoying lunch at the old spaghetti factory. We just sat down and our salads have not arrived yet. If you are really nearby and would like to join us, lunch would be on me. Isn't that nice? How did I know he was nearby? Maybe we were texting separately. Next sentence. Can you believe that it was 10 years ago this fall that I was introducing you to poetry, so to speak? He wrote back, that is pretty surprising. I can stop by and say hello. I'll be there momentarily, probably 10 minutes. Excellent. Well, how nice that because of all of these office hour meetings, because of these meetings in restaurants, whether it's Crepeville or Dos Coyotes, or finally the old spaghetti factory, that Tom and I not only felt so comfortable to reach out to each other and plan all these meals, but also that I messaged him on Facebook. To me, it seems out of the blue. Who knows what I was thinking? And I said, Tom, our salads haven't arrived yet. Come join us. Dinner, lunch is on me. And he said, I'll be there in 10 minutes. What a fine fellow. So today, he is the assistant city attorney at a big, important California city that we used to visit on a regular basis, and I didn't even know he was there. I will have to drop him a note. I might send him this very video. If I do, hey Tom, thanks for being such a good student in our poetry class. Thanks for your support with Poetry Night. Thank you for your work as a KDVS Public Affairs DJ. I didn't even include that in this video, but I appreciate that support of our community as well. Remember the time you interviewed Neil deGrasse Tyson? That was a big deal. And thanks for joining me for so many impromptu meals and office hours when you were a student at UC Davis. I hope you're enjoying your work as a assistant city attorney. I'm not surprised by your success. And for the rest of you, thank you for joining me on Diary of a Quizmaster. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.